a particular way. So when we hear certain terms, it's gonna trigger us in certain ways. You understand? Hence, I thought let me share my perspective on the stuff you shared, because when our youth reflects back on this, maybe they didn't understand it when you said it, but now when they hear my perspective, although it be the same thing, just said differently, and this is what I've experienced. Our people tend to argue a lot and don't want to work together, not knowing they are talking the same thing but just using different terms. And I'm not sure if you heard about Jacques Fresco.
No.
So I'm not sure how to describe him. He's also, I could say, a philosopher, engineer. He was in a lot of different industries, but I would say he was a thought. How can I say it now? He was a person that studied humanity, the behavior and society at large. So I learned by him also for the first time this concept that our communication in our language is not yet fully developed or developed enough where we can communicate 100%. So when I want to say something, you are gonna understand it 100% the way I intended to communicate it. Because what is happening now, given our different backgrounds, and the one example one of the online students said is, when I speak to an elder, I was taught to look down because it's so disrespect when I look them in the eye. But now in a different society, when I don't look you in the eye, now you think I'm hiding something, I'm untruthful, or all the negative connotations that goes with that. So now the concept Jacques is saying that, and he's making an example. If I'm an architect and I draw up plans here in South Africa and I send it to China where they don't speak Afrikaans, the architect there is gonna understand my plans because architecture is it's a type of language, or engineer, he will understand the plans. But when I speak English, although they understand English in China, but they are not, the chances are they're gonna misinterpret what I meant to write or to say, or however they receive my communication, given their experience and their experience now being attached to certain terms. So when they hear those terms, they hear it based on their experience and not based, and I'm speaking based on my experience. So now miscommunication happens. I think here is where the holographic effect also comes into play, because our people speak the same thing, but they are too much focused on the words being used, and sometimes they are too focused on how it's being said, and sometimes not focusing on the message itself. Hence misunderstandings, and people don't want to work together. Now again, I want to come back to the structuring, and I want to share this as well. When on our channel, when I speak about this stuff, and I speak about how the economy in its current state is not healthy for the planet, and by extension for humanity as a whole, people who consider themselves capitalists, immediately they call me a socialist, they call me a communist, a Marxist, and all the other isms, like you said. And I'm telling them, look, I'm talking about we need a solution outside of this framework, and you accusing me of something that's still within the same framework. You know, because communism, socialism, capitalism is all part of the same system. And you guys are not able to observe that we have been programmed to think in this way. So when I speak about something that's outside of your framework of thinking. Now you don't understand me, and I don't seem to make progress. Hence, I'm trying to have this conversation with you. Maybe you can help share your perspective, then which would be different from mine, which will now trigger people to start and think. Because yes, this channel, when we set out to focus only on the colored community. But having done that, we've realized, but no, man, this is not something special to the colored community. This happens in society as a whole. Like you said, the powers to be as an agenda for us to be conditioned thinking in these terms. Like I can use this now as an example, where one of our subscribers calls me a communist because I disagree with the capitalist system. I'm trying to highlight people to observe, look, just and observe yourself, just what happened now. I'm trying to alert you to, I'm speaking about stuff outside of this framework, and you continue to argue and stay within this framework.
Right.
And I'm trying to take you out. But your responses still is within this framework. But again, I want to come back to, I don't think I mentioned it in this conversation, but I did mention it earlier. Because of all these observations I have made, I have realized now, but no, man, we are actually supposed to follow laws. Again, how our Creator designed this universe to operate. And it's because the rules we have set up is primarily the reason for this suffering that humanity is experiencing. And again, with this capitalist system, this economic system, we have been taught that you must be independent. If you are not able to make it on your own, then you are nothing. So our people, when they go out in the world and they want to take on their dreams, now they realize, but it's actually quite difficult to achieve their ambitions. And like myself, if I can use myself an example, when I set out, I wasn't able to clearly define what I want to do, but I had an idea of what I want to do. But as I am trying to do and work on my goals, I realized, but this is something I cannot do on my own by myself. So the default response that my body went through was depression. Again, because I felt like I'm not man enough. I don't have the capacity, because I was taught I must be able to do it on my own. And on the other hand, my brain can recognize, based on laws, the law requires me to work with people, to do what I want to do. But this programming I was brought up with tells me I must do it alone, I must do it. Now I'm suffering throughout my whole entrepreneurial journey. So throughout this journey, I suffered a lot, and hence I'm so eager to have this conversation, because I feel like if I can share my experience, someone else who can relate to that, but that does not necessarily know what they are going through, can now identify what's going on. And only once you identify what's going on with you, now you're able to start working on an action plan to start to address it. Yeah, but I just want to get your reflections on that before we move on.
There's a lot. So you might have to rephrase some of the questions for me, but the first thing I think of is the fallacy that we've been told that, I mean, I'm an American, so I hear all the time, you know, pull up your own bootstraps and all this other crud. But those same boots you pull up, there's a handle that you hook onto your boots that aids you in pulling your boots up, right? When you have those type of boots. So the very term is actually disproved by the very nature of the boot itself. So we have all of these things in humanity that we've been sold that just aren't true, but we don't think about it. We just accept it because it's been passed down from generation to generation to generation based on fear of survival, fear of exclusion, and all of these other things that, okay, well, because I want to assimilate, because I want to be accepted, I will go against my own nature, my own intuition, and try to do, like you said, as an entrepreneur, you have been enculturated to believe you have to do it by yourself. And one of the first things I said when I started speaking today was, success is not possible on your own. It's something that it's built in our DNA as human beings to be connected with each other. So success isn't possible, true value isn't possible, joy isn't possible without some sort of connection. And no one can do anything fully alone. There's always been somebody who has taught you something, sparked your intuition, a mentor who's spoken to you and helped you along. Whether, I think spiritually, there's a spiritual hand of God that comes in and changes things for us as well, or opens up opportunities that we get the opportunity to step into. So in that respect, if we buy into that we have to do it by ourselves things, then we keep perpetuating that dissatisfaction and either anger or sadness, or which are forms. Those are the beginnings of the depression, because it's an unanswerable, unsatisfied anger or sadness, because you can't figure your way out of it. Because if I have to do it by myself, but I know I'm not capable of doing it by myself, then what's wrong with me? And that's how the system games us, because then now there's something wrong with us, let alone I can't be successful. And accepting the fact that, one, you're perfect in your own way. That does not mean that you are perfected, because no one is perfected, but we are always in a process of perfection. But where you are on the continuum of your life or your experiences, if you're here or here, it's still perfect. You're perfect in that moment, and you always have the opportunity to choose to move to the next perfect moment, or you move backwards, or you stay where you are. And there's always that connection. There's something that pulls you or pushes you forward. And that's where the connection comes in humanity that has been broken. And a lot of what I do with these trainings, like today was a little rushed because we had technology issues, but I really like to have more time where the participants share what they learned and what their perspective is, because like you were saying, how you heard what I said and someone else heard what I said might be very different. But when you talk about it, it's like, oh, wow, I didn't think about it that way. Or or maybe I just needed confirmation of the way that I was thinking. So there's something about when we come together, we learn together, it spears us forward. And coming back to what you were saying about people misinterpreting. I had to learn a long time ago not to care about being misunderstood, because now that doesn't mean that I don't want people to understand me. I have to accept the fact that not everybody's going to understand me. Even Jesus spoke about how the seed fell on different types of ground, and some it sprouted and they got killed out, some it got eaten and taken away. Not everybody's going to take me and my interpretation in a way that works for them. But I think the true sign of somebody who is a maturing individual is that you can say, I have a preference on how I like to learn things, but I am open to being stretched in a different way. I don't have to accept it, but I am at least open to hearing a different perspective, a different way of interpreting something before kind of being like a sheep and always baying back the same thing and having a canned response of, if you want to propose something different than capitalism, then you have to be a socialist, a capitalist. Can't tell you how many dinner tables I have ruined, or dinner times I have ruined, when myself being an American, having conversations with people after traveling and living all over the world and coming back and sitting at an American table, and then have it, capitalism is this and da-da-da-da. And I said, well, and socialism is bad. I said, well, you do realize that even in capitalism, socialism is part of it.
Yes.
Well, what do you mean? Well, all socialism is that you pay money towards something, or you give resources towards something for common good. So you pay a petrol tax that helps to pay for roads and all these other things. When you pay a toll, when you're driving on the highway, it's for the common good of people who are on the highway and maintaining it. That's an act of socialism. But they have been so conditioned not to accept socialism, they just refuse to see it in their own backyard.
Yes.
And so, because we've been told to fight anything that will dismantle the system that doesn't benefit us, we actually, the greatest trick of the oppressor is to get us to oppress ourselves.
Yes.
And we do it so easily. And when we refuse to listen with compassion to somebody else's viewpoint, even if you vehemently believe you disagree, what if it changes your mind? And this is the way I kind of see spirituality, because I'm an ordained pastor, which you didn't know. But as an ordained pastor, I do not believe that I am the end-all be-all interpretation of the Word of God. I believe that I can bring something to the table and have a conversation with somebody, be challenged by them, because my faith does not depend on whether or not you and I see things the same way. My faith is strong enough that I can hear something from someone that challenges what I believe. Because faith is not certainty. Faith is actually the belief in something that is unseen. So if I can do that as a pastor and have conversations with people who believe philosophically differently than me, but find common ground and see what's beautiful about your perspective and how you see God, and you can see something beautiful in how I see God, wow, that's a great place for us to meet. And I know there's a lot of people who are clergymen and women who won't do that because they're so locked into everything has to be black and white. We secular or spiritual, all these other things. To me, it's a fallacy, because if it's all products of the Creator, then it's all sacred. And maybe it's not always used in that way, but I kind of look at things from that perspective And it allows me to have very rich conversations with people and from anywhere in the world that I go, and not feel threatened that my faith is going to erode because I'm speaking with a Buddhist, or I'm speaking with somebody who's Catholic and I'm Protestant, or somebody who's Jewish. I can see beauty in how they see the world.
And again,